Oh. We're starting this evening with two public hearings before we go into the council meetings. The first public hearing is notice is hereby given to the residents of the city of Newport that the Newport City Council will hold a public hearing in the council room of the municipal building on Monday, January 6th, 2019 at 7 p.m. This hearing will be held for public review of and comment on the revised zoning bylaw pursuant to Title 24 VSA Chapter 117. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw revision is to provide for future growth and development of the city. The proposed revisions to the zoning bylaw, if adopted, affect all lands within the city of Newport as described with each proposed revision.
Mr. Mayor, did you say January?
It should have been the 7th. So that is a boo-boo in that.
Yeah, I noticed it today. Shouldn't be a problem, I don't think.
Should we wait and warn it for the next meeting?
No, I wouldn't. No. There is provisions where minor things will not stop it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I completely missed that too.
Yeah.
The holidays, everything. We just overlooked it, so you're glad you, yeah. Okay, as long as it meets.
Yeah, there is provisions in the statutes.
For the
Some-
minor.
there's a lot of, the content in that is not changed.
Okay. Okay, well, the first bylaw amendment is to change the zoning at Lakemont Industrial Park from light industrial to public health office district. The change is primarily motivated at this time to accommodate a proposed senior assisted living facility that would be located at that facility. The location between the public health zone on the west side, west and south, and the general residential zone on the north and east make it an ideal location for the assisted living facility and other healthcare providers such as physical therapy facility that is already there. This affects all owners of the property in the Lakemont Industrial Park. That's the first bylaw change. The second one, FEMA required an update to bring the zoning bylaw up to date and consistent with the National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP, existing standards. The update will qualify city residents in the flood zones for national flood insurance. The third change, proposed change, residential short-term room rental business shall be treated as a home occupation and be required to obtain a zoning permit to rent spare rooms to transient tenants. They will be permitted as a home occupation and required to meet the requirements for a home occupation, including adequate parking. This will affect all residential properties within the city. Number 4, eliminate the 5th paragraph of section 705.2, certificate of occupancy. The 5th paragraph requires a new owner of an existing property obtain a certificate of occupancy prior to occupying the building. Attorneys have raised several legal issues with this requirement. Upon review, the decision was made to eliminate it. It affects all properties within the city. Copies of the proposed zoning bylaw revision may be obtained from the Office of Zoning Administrator, dated Newport City, Vermont, December 18th, 2018, Newport City Planning Commission. And the notice was warned in the newspaper. And with that, the public hearing is open for any comments. Comments or questions on the changes? Then there are none. Did you have anything you want to add, Charlie, to any of the proposed changes? Just maybe to give a little more brief overview versus me just reading the warning?
The two biggest is the changing of the zone at the industrial park. That has been something that's been discussed before. And that zone is in between the residential neighborhood and the hospital. And we've had, over the years, health-related businesses and so on inquire about being in there. We made exceptions for at least one, but industry shies away from it because of its location. So I think that all in all, changing the zone there from light industrial to public health and office is a wise move for many reasons. I think we will find that we will have more people interested in it in time. The other a comment on the floodplain issue, I had emailed a copy of what you're looking at tonight to the floodplain representative for the Agency of Natural Resources for their review. And they went through the proposed bylaw, they've done a complete report on it, just like they did the other one, and found problems. And they have come back and said, as it sits right now, as you're looking at it, we would be in complete compliance with the National Flood Insurance Program specifications. So if you don't make any changes, we're home free with that.
Anything else?
And I'd be about it, those are the two biggest.
Questions from anyone? Council members, or anyone? Then, seeing that there are no questions on that, we'll close that part of the public hearing. And then we'll have the next public hearing, which will be... Okay. This is for the BCDP planning grant. The city of Newport received $60,000 from the state of Vermont for a grant under the Vermont Community Development Program. A public hearing will be held at the Newport City Municipal Building, 222 Main Street, Newport, Vermont, on January 7th, 2019 at 6:30 p.m. And that is correct on this one. To obtain the views of citizens on community development, to furnish information concerning the range of community development activities that have been undertaken under this program, and to give affected citizens the opportunity to examine a statement of use of these funds. The VCDP funds received have been used to accomplish the following activities. Phase 1 of the planning grant, produce a constraints and opportunities plan, the Newport strategic feasibility analysis, and the market assessment. Phase 2, produce the waterfront and downtown master plan. 3 community meetings were held regarding the waterfront and downtown master plan. The city plans to utilize the plan as a roadmap towards implementation. Information on this project may be obtained from and viewed during the hours of 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. at the Newport City Municipal Building, 222 Main Street, Newport, Vermont, 05855, on 1/3/2009. Should you require any special accommodations, please contact Laura Dogan at 802-334-5136 to ensure appropriate accommodations are made. For the hearing impaired, please call TTY 1-800-253-0191. And this was also warned in the Wednesday, December 19th, 2018 Newport Daily Express, the public hearing. And with that, I'll turn it over to the city manager just for a brief overview of everything.
So this grant, this was the grant that we filed in late 2016 after learning about the collapse of the EB5 projects and the Main Street development. In August of that year, we held a meeting in the municipal gym with potential stakeholder partners, and that was the point where we learned about filing for a planning grant. We filed for the grant in November. It was awarded in January of 2017. We went through a procurement process, and that is how White & Burke came on the scene. White & Burke is the firm, and if you look at all this stuff, this is on our website under downtown development documents. White & Burke is responsible for generating the constraints and opportunities sheet that has been important for potential developers. They did the Newport market assessment, And again, we had a presentation on that in October of 2017. They did the Newport strategic feasibility analysis. And they did, bear with me, they were responsible for helping us with the Pinnacle Hotel study, full application, it's on here somewhere. And as they closed out their work, we were eligible for an expanded scope grant. The expanded scope is what produced the Waterfront and Downtown Master Plan, which is here too. Waterfront and Downtown Master Plan. That is the work that we're now excited about. This is their, this is what the plan looks like. There's a copy downstairs in Jim's office. And this is what we're using as our roadmap or our playbook as we move into our capital investment plan. So we've got two capital investment plans. One is our operating budget that we'll be looking at tonight. And then the other one is our 5-year capital investment program that I've been working on for the past couple of weeks and had hoped to present tonight. Showed it to my mentor, need to do another level of review with it and hope to have it for presentation at our next meeting on the 21st. Both of our plans surround implementation. This is 69 pages long, so if I just swoop down to the last 5 pages, if it will let me. This is where the spreadsheets talk about the projects. It breaks it down into specific zones of the city and gives us opportunity to really start tackling some of these projects towards implementation. Obviously, some of these will be easy to implement and some of them will be long-term planning and financing. And the work that we're doing with NCIC on the RCDI grant, which has expanded our capacity to file grants and look at implementation, is helping us significantly with these. So that's the upshot. Any questions?
Any questions from anyone regarding, and this is the closeout, the 60 for this, so that we can receive
Yes.
the 60,000
Yes,
to be reimbursed for our expenses.
Yes, a public hearing is required as part of the process. And I've uploaded all the forms today. Once the council has this hearing, and I understand you'll request a modification on the agenda to be able to sign a resolution saying that we received everything that we expected to receive in the grant. All of those forms will be uploaded and the requisition will be complete.
Okay. Questions from anybody, council members, anyone in the audience regarding this part of the public hearing? And if there are none, we will close this public hearing and I will open the regularly scheduled Newport City Council meeting for January 7th, 2019. And what I will need to do is have an amendment, have a change to the agenda to add the approval of the resolution, certificate for the final requisition of BCBB funds added to the agenda.
You want to ask the motion?
Yes.
Okay, so moved then.
Motion's made,
Second.
seconded, discussion on that motion, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it, motion carries. We'll add it as 4A, right after the bylaw vote. Okay. The next item is to approve the minutes of December 17th, 2018. And I would entertain a motion, if so choose.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion, we accept the minutes of December 17th, 2018 as presented.
Motion's been made, is there a second?
I'll second.
Made by Mr. Snetch, seconded by Ms. Bowen. Any discussion on the minutes? Then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. The next item was comments by members of the public. Didn't see anybody who had signed up for any comments, so we'll move on. So the next item is the bylaw amendment, and we would Need a motion to approve the proposed bylaw changes, if the council so chooses.
I'll make that motion.
Motion's been made, is there a second?
I'll second.
Made and seconded to approve the bylaw amendments. Is any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, the ayes have it, motion carries. The next would be to authorize the mayor to sign the certification for the final requisition of VCDP funds, grant funds. We would need a motion for that.
So moved.
The motion's been made, is there a second?
I'll second.
Made and seconded, discussion on that motion. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. Mr. Johnson, do you know where you know?
Yes,
I didn't know when they do it, this my signature.
that's my inspiration.
What do you want?
No, it's this year, isn't it?
Yeah, everybody's expiring January 31st. If you're a notary, we all expire.
Not yet.
It's the open.
You got it.
Yeah, 'cause we all have to go through that new process for notaries this year.
Yes.
Get yourself a bathing water bottle.
Very good.
Yes. There. Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. The next item is the Out of Darkness event debrief, and we received a letter. I'll read the letter so that everybody, it's dated November 29th, 2018. Dear Newport City Council, let me start by thanking you for letting AFSP out of the Darkness Walk hold our 7th annual walk at the gazebo. Also, thank you for waiving the fees. This allowed every penny earned to go right to our cause. The morning started with a few issues. We contacted Jessica through email as soon as we learned of these problems. We were able to clean up the gazebo and set up for our event. We had no issues with containing the crowd. They were great at sticking to our event area. Cleanup went smooth when we left it, and we left it better than we found it, so I'm very pleased. Our walk was a huge success. I believe we worked well with the farmers market to make sure there were no issues. They were kind enough to donate to our event. I am hoping next year to work as well with them. We were given suggestions on how to improve next year on things such as crossing when we begin and end the walk. We are hoping to put these in effect next year. Our count was 215 walkers and we raised over $16,000. This beat our goal set, which was amazing. We look forward to our 2019 Out of the Darkness walk. I will be sure to be contacting you to use the gazebo again. If anyone has any questions, if anyone has any questions, they can feel free to contact me. Jessica has my info. I hope to be there in person next year to speak for our organization. Thank you, Amanda Sharpert, chairperson for the Newport Out of the Darkness Walk. Any questions on that? Sounds like it was very successful. Okay, the next item we will need is an executive session under 1 VSA 313 3A3.
303, no, this one, number 2, it just requires one motion.
Motion.
You can move to go into executive session to discuss the employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee.
I move that we go into executive session. Do I?
You can say to discuss the employment or evaluation of a public officer or
Okay.
employee.
To discuss the employment of a public officer or employee
Yeah.
for 1 VSA 313 3A3.
Motion's been made, is there a second?
I'll second.
Made, seconded, discussion on that motion. Then all those in favor say aye. Opposed, ayes have it, motion carried. So we'll go into a brief executive session.
This is the one.
Well, that same thing.
Well, no, I don't get anything. That's only used for emergency.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's off when I get
See.
45%.
Okay, we will now continue with budget review, recreation, and then other. So we have Jess here to go over her budget.
So, we'll start with the revenue section here. A couple things that you'll notice about this budget, we decided to go through kind of a cleansing process with the line items, so that makes things a little bit tricky this year. I took some advice from our police chief, who said that it might be tedious for a year, but it's definitely a good use of time to clean up your budget.
I've been asked to ask you to speak up.
So what you'll see here as we go through, my first real look at the budget, the first one that I did last year was pretty green still, but now as I've learned a little bit more about where our expenses and our revenues are going, we decided to change some of the line items to make things more organized going forward. So what you'll find in both the expense and revenue side is that there was, in almost all of our sections, there's a miscellaneous section. Some of which there's quite a bit of money coded to, so we've tried to tease that out a little bit and create new line items to hold those things that we know we'll be seeing annually. So that makes things a little bit tricky. So you'll see for our revenue here at Proudy Beach, we're looking at, based on our actuals, we're looking at an increase here. We saw 144,000 last year, so we're anticipating something similar. We're being very conservative in saying only 140,000 for revenue. We expect that probably that will continue to go on the increase if we have another good weather summer. And then, as I said, there's some lines where there's reductions, but that's because we made up for it in other areas. Speaking specifically about Proudy Beach miscellaneous, there was $5,500 coded to that last year. So this year we budgeted $200, which is more appropriate for a miscellaneous line, and then those other figures add up to that.
So you got 200, you got 800, and I think it was down here,
Yeah, down on campground store, 3,000.
1,500.
For field rentals.
Okay.
Did you skip recreation?
No, Proudy Beach, then recreation
Miscellaneous. So this is kind of an odd category. It was previously used, I think, but there are programs are down the bottom there. We are budgeting about the same for our annual events. We did move our J-Peak discount tickets to a different line because they take quite a substantial amount of our adult programs, and we really wanted to be able to identify that separately because it's kind of a unique program.
Is that what this is right here, Jess?
Yep, discount tickets, so there's no figures there in the past, we're just pulling that out of.
I've been asked to have you speak up again.
Oh, so we're just pulling that out of adult programs, that $5,000 up top.
This, or it used to be up here, where did it used to be?
Adult programs,
Yeah.
line 36,
Yep, right there.
Yep.
Right, so it used to show here, I see. So you've reduced that by half, but you put the other, so the J tickets is a program that the rec department has hosted for a really long time.
Yeah, we're probably in our 6th year for that.
And how does that program work?
So J-Peak actually reached out to us initially and said, we'd love to offer a discounted rate for through your recreation department. So they give us a rate every year that's a group rate. So if we bring a certain size group, we get a discounted rate on lift tickets, and then we make actually $2 or $3 on each one of those transactions. So they give us a certain rate, we bump it up by $2 or $3, and then that's additional income for the recreation department. The only thing we have to do is coordinate with everyone and actually do the administrative process of selling the tickets and meet everyone up there and distribute tickets, and that's it, so.
Okay. Good.
What other big things?
What's this? Oh, here's the waived event fees, okay. Yeah.
Our gym rentals are creeping up, which is nice. Our actuals last year were 4,000. We anticipate 3,000. That's all being conservative, but those are on the up creep, which is good.
Oh, your gym rentals up here, okay. All right.
So overall, we're looking at about an increase of 15% for that section.
Okay.
Park rentals, not as big of an overall increase here for Gardner Park, but that's pretty standard because we took our increase kind of last year when we cleaned up the rental process and started taking account for those funds. So things are pretty standard looking there. Gas sales, we did propose an increase there. We are already above $60,000 in revenue for gas sales this year, so we expect that will be a trend, but that's kind of a hard one to do because you never know what the gas prices are gonna be and you never know what your voting traffic's gonna be. So we just try to kind of fluctuate it based on the trends.
And what are the dates that you're actually selling gas from when to when? Do you know?
When the dock opens, it's usually the weekend after Mother's Day, and when the dock closes is the Tuesday after Columbus Day, so mid-May to mid-October.
Okay. Now, on to expenses.
Before we go, any questions on the revenue side from council members?
I can go back.
Didn't, just figured
Yeah.
before we go to the expense,
Yeah.
just see if there are any questions on any of the revenues? No? Okay.
Would you mind just going back to the total revenue?
This is on our website.
Yeah, I just
Okay.
can't, I'm looking at it, so I just wanna make sure I know what I'm looking at, so I'll double check tomorrow, but
Okay.
thank you.
If you have any questions, just let me know.
Yep, thank you. Okay, thanks.
Okay, expenses, this first line is kind of housekeeping, there is some things in there, communications, travel and miscellaneous that are, we did reduce employee work attire under the admin section, because we decided to distribute that throughout the facilities, because each facility has their own uniforms and stuff, so that made more sense to give each facility an allowance, as opposed to pulling it out together.
And again, you see all these zeros here because that is the personnel expenses that we moved into each department. And formerly, just as a refresher, I know you've seen this before, but we had all the personnel expenses combined for all the departments and all the employees there. Now, this is the first time we are taking all of those things and attributing them more accurately within each department. So that's why you're gonna see these are all new 0, 0, 0, because this is the first year we've done that.
Which is very helpful.
I think it's a very good thing. You have to train your eye and you have to remember that when you look at the percentage of the increase. That's why that's why I've got this open. So you can see more accurately what the actual increase is based on operations as opposed to the personnel line items, if that helps. So that's a great big number, that 37, that's negative. That number didn't come out as big as I thought that it would.
Well, no, that's just your insurance.
Yeah, okay, let me just look. I wanna match this up. Total rec admin with those. Total rec admin without those. But this is the one that you're that's the budget that we're asking to be approved. It just gives you a good cross-reference as to the impact of those expenses.
Right, okay,
Okay. Questions? Keep going?
keep going.
Okay.
For Every Young Club, starting last year, we decided to start giving them an annual allowance of $1,000, I believe. It used to be $500 perhaps. We bumped that up for their.
I'm showing the actuals
Okay,
in
so-
16-17 was 789. We didn't budget anything, and then last year they had requested that. So I think it worked out pretty well.
It's nice, yeah. And they've also been doing quite a bit of fundraising themselves too, which is great. So,
Are they renting the senior center or are you renting?
great question. So we decided to open up the senior center a couple years ago, last year, and rentals all come through us. So if somebody would like to rent the senior center for a birthday party or baby shower, they can come to the recreation department and schedule it through our reservation system. We're kind of the overseer of the schedule. But then once they've gone through us, we turn them over to Esther, the president, and she does an orientation with the people that are using it, lets them know what the expectations are for the rules and stuff, make sure the doors are unlocked when it's time for the event. And then, so we give them a cut of that reservation. We keep the $25 deposit and they get whatever the balance is of the rental. So they're making some revenue that way. We thought it was appropriate because they're using their dishes and their appliances and things like that when they're using that space, so.
So they're getting a bigger cut of it?
They're doing a bigger cut, yeah.
Only ask that because I'm a senior at all.
We thought that was a good compromise. We take 25 for the administrative portion of it and then they get to benefit from the rest, so.
It's a very nice relationship. We like having them here. It's a good use of that building, it's a good use of that space.
Been there a long time.
Yeah, well, I can see why. It's very nice, and Esther's done a beautiful job.
At least 50 years.
This year was the 50th anniversary of the senior center.
This year was?
It's been there for at least 50
Next year
years.
actually 50th anniversary of Forever Young Club.
Wow,
We've been around a long time.
Yep.
that's nice. I hope they highlight that somehow. Nice. Okay.
Just wanted to make sure we were getting our cut.
You're good at that, Jim.
So Proudy Beach,
No. Let's see, so this is expense salary.
Mhm.
You can see that the salaries went up here, so something different that we also did this year was my salary, instead of pulling it 100% out of the admin, we decided to split that amongst the facilities because my time is kind of split equally amongst those things or given a certain percentage in each place. So if you went back up to admin, you'd see a decrease in the salaries there, but you'll see an increase a little bit in each of the other facilities.
Yeah, there is a decrease. And here again, you have your personnel expenses.
Oh, so those are divvied out in each facility even.
Yeah.
So how did you guys calculate that based on seasonal, just trends from seasonal past? So it's not the rec department benefits as a whole, you're actually looking at the individual facilities?
We're breaking it out with as much detail as we possibly can. We think that will help the department heads plan going forward. Gives you much more precision to work with.
Let's see,
So again, that number is reflective of a pretty substantial jump due to the personnel expenses. And we just cross-reference this. Without the personnel expenses.
Yeah, so that's a reflection of my salary being in there too, and the recreation.
Yes.
position.
Can people please speak up so we can hear?
Keep going. Any questions from the council? Good.
Okay.
Oops, this is recreation programs.
Yep, this is programs here. Pretty standard discount tickets is here too.
I see it.
Oh, that's because this is the expense side. So you can see that discount tickets are broken out of adult sports. Play World. So one thing that we noticed with Play World is some salaries were being booked to the actual line item of Play World, the expense line. So we actually pulled those out and put them into the salary line. So you can see a pretty big reduction. Most of the spending that we do for Play World, which is grant funded, is from salary. So we divvied that down to just be supplies that we need, you know, snacks and things like that for the kids. So that's why that number is a pretty big change. And then we must make personnel expenses.
Same, yeah, we just cross-reference it.
Now, summer camp operations.
Yeah.
Is that just breaking down
Yeah.
from the salaries that were, no? That's the actual operation?
Yeah, so if you look at line 160, summer programs,
Yep.
I'm in the personnel though, I should probably look at this one.
No, I was asking about summer camp operations
Yeah.
at 6,000 where nothing had been budgeted. So where
if you,
had that come from? That's not personnel, you said.
nope,
So it's
scooch
not
up to,
personnel?
scooch up to 183, right there. Summer programs.
Yes.
We
Oh,
have,
that dropped.
we have several summer programs. Summer camp is the biggest program, so we decided it would be best to put that in its own line.
Okay.
And then the summer programs would be the remainder of all the smaller mini camps and things.
Okay.
What happened to the track and field events or something? It used to be a big deal here.
They did, used to be a big deal. The coach that had run it for years and years and years retired. We tried to find a coach in her place, but that coach had a circle of connections and stuff, so we took a year, we tried running it with a different coach. The enrollment went down to about half, and then the following year we didn't have enough to run it, so I think that was a legacy that came along with Sue Tatru, who did a great job for many numbers of years. We did have a coach that was interested in picking that back up, who's actually one of the high school coaches. So that program is like many others. They kind of come and go with people that are interested in the community and coaching and hosting those things. I don't know anything about track and field, so there was no way we could host it internally. We really needed someone that was interested and that was their passion. So those things kind of come and go, but we have a prospect for this upcoming year.
Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Gardner Park. You can see again an increase in the salaries. We did combine a few items, repair and maintenance, some renaming of stuff, repair and maintenance versus repair and maintenance supplies or something. We combined those into one. What other big things?
Yeah, and there's all your personnel expenses. You just do a cross-reference. That's a big number. Let me go back.
Okay.
Okay, let me get back on that. Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Waterfront. Yep, big increase there. That was because we combined repair and maintenance with repair and maintenance line or whatever it is. And you can see on 255.
Line 255?
Yeah, that's the repair and maintenance line.
Okay. Okay. So you can, yeah.
Yep.
So, repair and maintenance in both of those, Gardner Park and the waterfront, jumped about 5,000 over. And that one's 500%.
Is there notes to sign if you click over? Is there anything in the other columns, P and Q?
thought that you did increase the maintenance.
We did increase the maintenance based on the actuals. And you can see what our actuals, even if you scroll down to the bottom there. If you scroll down to the bottom and look at our actuals overall, we're overspending our budget. Let's see, this is. We're overspending our budget quite a bit for different things, and some of them are mostly repair and maintenance. That's kind of the catch-all for those types of things, and that's.
So that's why the big increase.
Yeah, and that's the lack of maintenance for a long time and trying to catch up on the backlog. Yeah, so we tried to be gentle, but we tried to budget based on the actuals so that we're not.
Jessica, what about your security on both Gardner Park and Waterfront? Those have gone,
Yep, those have gone to zero. Those were, security we decided to add into the salaries line, having a separate line for security when it was just like 0.25, just a few hours a week for people that are coming in and locking up. We decided to include that in the salaries for the simplicity of our timesheets and having less lines to code to and things like that.
So that's the person, they lock up the facilities at night, pretty much.
Make the rounds and
make
lock
the
up
rounds and-
facilities, check on
okay.
everything,
Okay. We'll move on. Boat washing, you've merged that to the dock. And everything's zero there, because you did run a greeter program last year with the boat washing machine.
Is that a grant?
But why are the actuals not there?
There's nothing in there under
It is
boat
a-
washing.
It is a grant.
Because you did receive the grant for that.
There should still be numbers, there should be some actuals and. I don't think it was much.
I mean, you had
We'll watch
waterfront,
stickers, yes.
the waterfront greeter program technically is under the boat, well, that used to be under the boat wash station. If you go up above, under the dock, under the waterfront, you have a waterfront greeter program.
Yep,
So
it's-
maybe you moved it up there from boat washing.
Yeah, and if you scooch up, we also have a line now, I think, for boat wash stickers that has $100 in it, so that's the actual cost of the stickers.
Oh, okay.
So,
So you just move things up.
Yeah, and there's
Very nice.
there's a mooring section too that's just for the mooring field. I don't see it on here. That's kind of always one of those weird things that I think it's in a separate, Jim, is that in a
It's just
separate,
a separate account. got
separate
nothing to do-
account because
Got nothing to do with
the
this budget.
ordinance?
Huh?
Because of the ordinance?
Yeah, there's nothing in this budget for mooring.
So that must
That's
be
part
it.
of the ordinance.
Okay, so your waterfront greeter program is here.
Yeah, and that's a grant funded, that's what our capital expenses have, just $9,000
Okay.
to support that and weed harvesting.
They just moved it up from boat wash
Okay.
up to the waterfront.
Yep.
Okay, that answered that question.
There's your bottom line. Your bottom line overall increase is the 6.58% in your expenses with the personnel expenses it's showing as 20.81.
Questions for Jess?
You scooch back to the one without the personnel,
To the what?
without the personnel expenses. So that was a 6.5.
Mr. Ross.
Any questions? There's some big changes with, as I start to wrap my head around the budget a little bit more and seeing where the areas of need and stuff are. 6% is more than a normal increase, but
Well, if it's based on your actuals, I mean, a budget is an anticipation, it's an educated guess. And I think what we're trying to do is put more reality into the numbers so that we don't overrun our budget. That's a scary thing to do.
But you've also increased the revenue side. I mean, it's a budgeting thing. It's like anything, you estimate your revenue, but if you look at your actuals, you've been increasing the revenue over the years, so.
Yeah. So if there's no other questions for
Anything for
Jess?
Jess from council members? Very good, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. I have invited all of our department heads here tonight. And appreciate them coming, and the reason is because when we get to the other expenses, these are expenses that we both can control and some that we cannot control. So if you look at the conservation and development in the other section, these are things that we get a bill for. We have to pay dues. The bike path right away is a lease that we have with the railroad. I believe it's a 5-year lease, I want to say. So our amounts here are prescribed. Membership dues to the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. Tree maintenance is basically for the Main Street trees, but other trees that may need some city attention that we own. We are members of NVDA. That is our annual dues that we pay there. The miscellaneous flower beds, we've been increasing that each year. That started out as a project with the downtown organization. Started out with being funded through donations, and over the years it's been shifting to the city. It was planned that the downtown organization would not assume the total cost forever, and this is the year that we're assuming the full cost. That's the flower pot program and the urns that you see around the city. The Main Street lights, those are, I believe those are the Christmas tree lights. Volunteer band is what it is. Their annual stipend of $500. We will be adding to our Main Street banners this year. They're very tired and old, and they need an upgrade. So it'll cost more than $3,000 to do all of them, because technically we do it seasonally. So the $3,000 will give us a start. Well, that's your total conservation and development. The health and welfare, again, fairly stagnant, fairly self-explanatory. We have a health officer, and given the work that that individual does, we're very grateful for it and can't really expect him to do it as a volunteer. Our hazardous waste mailing, we're required to do 3 household hazardous waste events a year. Right now, next year we'll be required to do 4. And the waste disposal, I have to double check, that's for the entire organization, Becky, the 16,000? No, that's one section. Is that just at the recycling center?
It's the bulk of it.
It's not everything. Right. Our recycling project, this is the salaries affiliated with keeping the recycling center open. The expense is that between Pat Austin and Casella, we have fees associated with keeping the recycling center emptied. These were all of our personnel expenses that tally $879,000. Where am I? $849,000. That's the amount that has been distributed throughout the budget. These are also, the other expenses are expenses that we get a bill for. our Orleans County tax. Every municipality contributes to the operations of the county courthouse. The actual number is 51,012. We have committed a total of $60,000 to the downtown organization. 30 of that is from operations and 30 of that is the Walmart funds. That's why it's showing as 60. The transaction will take place during the audit. That will show that back as 30. We don't know how many city ordinances we'll need to advertise, so it seems $500 is served as well. We haven't made any changes there. These insurances are all costs that have been billed to us for this year. It's an estimate because it is based on this year. When we get our bill next November and December, we'll be able to go through the same process again. Let's see. The miscellaneous, you're gonna see one big number there. It's very unusual. It was a one-time reimbursement to the V&A regarding their taxes. We no longer have a centennial, so that will eventually go away. We received a private donation, and this year it's in our budget. It's been audited, and we don't have anything there for this coming year. This is our expense for Newport ambulance that the council has already agreed to. The council authorized me to sign that contract, and that's been signed and delivered. And this is a number that is prescribed by Vermont League of Cities and Towns. Debt service, this is also prescribed. And you will see that the budget incorporates a police cruiser, which we do every year on our fleet rotation. And those are usually financed as opposed to purchased outright. So you've got a 2019 police cruiser included in there with anticipated expenses associated with that.
How many more years do we have on the Long Bridge? I notice we're paying a lot more on principal now than interest, which is good.
I can tell you that by looking at our audit.
Oh, yeah. I was just curious.
Yeah. Our audit in, let me just see if I could find it quickly. I'd be so proud of myself if I could.
I couldn't remember if it was a 15.
Do you remember
10,
what the
a
note?
10, Tom said it was a 10 or 15.
I don't recall.
In your general activities, it doesn't say what the amount was, what project it was for. It says the amount and the maturity date.
Well, I can look it up in there. I was just, didn't know if you had it on the top of your head. You know, but I was just curious how much we had left on the Long Bridge.
What do you remember? Was it like a 10-year note?
That's what I don't remember. I was just curious.
There is something for $369,000 for 10 years that was taken out in 2014, and it matures in July of 2024. Do you think that might be it?
It might be in the time frame. Yeah, that
Okay.
sounds about right for the
All
time
right.
frame.
Okay.
Because all I know, it was less that we had to do because we got a bigger match because we allowed them to close it for the year versus trying to build it, keep it open. So, okay.
You had something else in 2011. The original amount was $500,000, and that matures in November of 2029.
Could be either one of those two.
Okay, so it's either 2011 or 2013.
What's the remaining balance on it?
The remaining balance, let's see, on the 500,000, original amount was 500,000 with net interest of 2.64, paid in semi-annual
Yeah, but
payments.
what's the remaining balance?
Principal payments of 50,000 paid annual each December 1st. The beginning balance on June 30th, 2017 was 250. The deletions are 50, showing an ending balance of June 30th, 2018 of 200,000. The other one, the ending balance is 267,000. But again, it doesn't say what the project was for. That's on,
I assume the thing is the 2014,
you think so?
yeah,
That's on page 29.
yeah,
Here,
oh,
under
okay. That was just,
audit. Yeah, we're putting it in,
$300,000 maybe go
bring it out.
use some of that
You got it.
left. Use it for the, use it 283 left.
We allocated it for something else.
here, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I was just,
That may have been the 500,000.
right, okay.
So that 181,000 is prescribed, basically from our loan, facilities. Nothing in assigned expenses. This must be the total of all the, bottom lines, Becky? Yep. So this 588,000 is the total of your total debt service, your total other expense, your total, well, not your total personnel anymore, recycling, health and well-being, health, welfare, and conservation. So now we go into the capital expenses. Capital expenditures are big ticket items that occur on an annual basis. They're outside the scope of the operational expense because they're that big. Earlier, the council approved, on November 5th, at your November 5th meeting, you approved the reassignment, the committing, there's specific language to commit, assign, and restrict certain funds that are left over in your operating expenses from our past year. This is generated from our audit. And what the council did at that evening was recognize that we have $200,000 to return to the taxpayers. That is a result of receiving grants that we also budgeted for. We didn't know that that was gonna happen. We worked with our auditor for a couple of days analyzing how we budgeted that and concluded that we would continue to budget the way that we did because we have to pay those employees whether or not we get the grant. So that way there's no surprise to the taxpayer. Hopefully this is a pleasant surprise to the taxpayer that we have an opportunity to return $200,000. The other areas are, you see where it says automatic, the Coventry sinking fund, that's prescribed for the Coventry sinking fund, so we're not touching that. The tennis court fund and the reappraisal. Fire station was previously assigned to the roof, and the roof has been completed, Jamie, and we're very pleased with the outcome. If you haven't seen it, it's beautiful, so we're happy about that. That doesn't take the need away for the floor. That was originally what those funds were set aside for over a 2-year plan, but the roof became a priority, so the floor is still on deck. Jamie has an opportunity, and you approved that $2,500 that was unspent from his communications budget can be carried over for the same purpose in this budget. And the gym floor has occurred in this year, that work is completed. This gateway maintenance, we had about $25,000 or $26,000 set aside to paint the gateway. The bill came in significantly lower, that was the amount remaining, so we're able to use those funds as well. All of your public works stuff is prescribed by statute, so you'll see that there's no notes here because that's by statute, and the council agreed with the auditor's recommendation. The dispatch equipment, this year is the only year that we'll be able to set up a repair and maintenance fund. Those are funds that were received through the various contracts for dispatch services. And it's the first year that we did it. Any future year revenue will go towards offsetting personnel. And that was what was presented to the council, and that was approved. This facilities maintenance was the project that was completed in the city clerk's office. Those improvements were used by these funds. So the total that we have available to us is actually this number, because you see that it's unassigned. This is the total of your restricted funds. This is what is unassigned. So I'm just gonna switch back over. I wanted to reintroduce you to this page and then switch back over to our other, because you'll see what we are proposing. Want to note again that the centennial is over, so those, we don't need to budget anything for that. But given the fact that we budgeted $25,000 for 2 years in a row, we did not want to lose sight of our efforts around city beautification. And it's our goal to keep the standard. You're on the same thing.
I was in the same cell.
It's our goal to keep the same standard that we've become accustomed. And I've gotten estimates from, we did all the work with Spates, which is our in-town landscaper. We also did some work with Ferentz Greenhouse. And it's our intention to continue with that standard that we enjoyed during the centennial, through the flower pots, through the beautification and the holiday decorations, and the maintenance of the islands. So then I'm going to turn this section over to Public Works Director Tom Bernier. Tom's here, right?
Tom's here.
Tom's here, yay! So, these are the areas that talk about the fleet schedule, the fleet replacement, and the street reconstruction. I think some of those numbers come from here, but Tom, I'll stop talking.
You're doing fine.
So we've got some notes over here that talk about specifically what these expenses would be used for. Oops, I'm sorry. Got a 2001 grader that's coming up for replacement. Just want to see what the remainder in that says. Yeah, so we budgeted the expense for a grader, and it is possible that we would file another USDA Community Facilities grant. Those require a cash match. So it was our thought to cover our bases, not knowing if we'd get the grant or not, we would have the funds available to be able to purchase it outright. And again, the USDA grant application is open a couple of times a year, and RCDI has capacity to help us file that, so we would be looking at that. $290,000 for street, where am I? Street resurfacing. Tom's got a list of the areas that need attention this year. Highland Ave, it's time for an overlay. So Highland Ave was completely reconstructed in 2013? 2010. And now it's beginning to show some wear and tear, and we think we can preserve its longevity by giving it an overcoat. Central Street needs attention, Clark Street, Middle Street, Orchard Street, Parker Street, and Cross Street. And I'm curious, Tom, and not to open up a Pandora's box, did Weaver Street get done?
Yes.
Okay.
Wow. Yes and
Okay, all right.
no. Completed.
All right, so there'll be some completion happening
There's
before.
still funds in this current budget.
Yeah. Yeah, so timing of that will clean up before July 1st. 50,000 is materials in your street reconstruction,
Correct.
and finishing up the pavers on Main Street. Oops, again, I'm sorry. I'm trying to slide this over so I can see it. Pavers and anything dealing with maintenance of Main Street. The 7,500 is showing from restricted bridge repair. Tom, that's the amount you budget each year, so that you have it, if it's a,
Typically, if it's normally we get a grant from the state to do some sort of bridge repair or paving. Usually that 7,500 is only really for engineering services. Our last bridge painting was $175,000 grant, and we had $90,000 on top of that we had to kick into the project. So this just starts the process and hopes the following year I would have to budget for any remaining funds that we would not be covered by a grant.
the Vista traffic lights is something that's been talked about since I arrived in 2015. We had this proposed in previous years, and again, with the RCDI capacity, there's a downtown transportation grant that's become available that we're optimistic we would be able to take advantage of these funding opportunities to improve that entire intersection area. That intersection in the Vista entrance and the entrance into Gardner Park is targeted as one of our, I've used the expression low-hanging fruit. It's targeted in the intersection study, which is part of the VHB and waterfront and downtown master plan. And the Pomerlows have expressed an interest in working with us to adjust their entrance into Vista so it aligns with Gardner Park. That's a really big deal when you have a private landowner who's willing to work with the municipality to improve that entrance. He will have to do some negotiating with the railroad because that railroad is very specific for his going into his venue. So that's a very promising. It's in alignment, as I mentioned, with two previous studies, plus the Pomerlows sound like they're ready to work with us. And being able to improve those traffic lights so that they're all in sync with each other.
Would that be new traffic lights for the oldest ones there?
Just keep in mind the 40,000 really, again, we did the construction, hired out Fred Chambers to do Cumberland Farms 2 years back at a total cost of $280,000. So that 40,000 really is engineering to get the process going. If we're gonna renew the whole intersection for the traffic lights, we're looking at a 300,000 minimal project.
It's a big enchilada, but it would make a really big improvement. One of the other things that we're interested in doing is improving the lighting along that area as part of these grants, because it has a different feel to it than our main street, but it's actually part of our downtown designation, and it would be nice through ambiance, through landscape and such, to be able to bring that so it looks like it's very intentional and part of our downtown. So again, you see possible grant matching. There's more to come on that. We've had the Red Barn demolition for budget for several years in a row. We know that some people in the community think that that barn has some value. Our challenge is that the location of the barn is in the worst possible place. If it ever caught on fire, we have a multi-million-dollar arsenic plant right next to it. It's got some electrical wires hanging over it. Over the past couple of years, we've tried to recruit barn preservation facilities to come and take a look at it. We've not been able to recruit any interest. We have had some nibbles about people who are interested in barn board every now and then, but not enough to take the whole barn down. So again, erring on the side of safety and preventative maintenance, that's the cost for taking down the barn. Tom could speak more intelligently about your crushed tar pile.
I'd like to back up to just recap on the barn. I'm assuming this is the original one back in 2007 contract that the council made with Frank Knoll for the Red Barn. So this has been ongoing for a long time. And God forbid that barn ever caught fire, but that's our water supply we're talking about down there. So I'm sure test to, if that barn goes up, we're in trouble. We've been putting committee meeting, we bring it up. I know it's an expense, it's a beautiful barn, it's unfortunate that nobody has the funds to dismantle it and take it away. We've offered to give it away, but I think we're ready. At least I've been feeling that way for quite some time.
We were ready back in 2007, but Frank came, but he thought he had a prospect for it too. And then it just kind of fizzled out. I mean, we didn't even give it away.
No. So the next item that Laura was talking about is the our tar pile down at the recycling or the dump on Coventry Street, and it's been growing for many years, and I need to reclaim it, chew it up, and mix it with some gravel, which we would gain. We'd have a gravel that would last us probably 10 years. But I need to clean it up down there and get rid of that tar pile.
Great. Any for Tom, because that's his section. So, be good to ask him while he's here. If not, keep moving. Okay, we're starting to set up a fund for the municipal building. We've got a lot of things that have been, I don't want to say neglected, but not affordable. This year we did the windows. We'll be doing the windows in the city clerk and treasurer's office in the spring, and we've got to do the police department windows as well. Our slate roof is starting to show signs of wear and tear, and that may be a project that's big enough for a bond, because when it comes time to replace the slate, I know the courthouse did that in 2014 for about $225,000, so that's the reason we put that there. We're very glad we were able to do that this past year, and what we've done with those funds is the windows.
And there aren't that many people in Vermont that do slate roofs.
I know.
I think we discovered that with the library. We redid the
I
library.
can't even remember who that was, I think it was Vermont State.
But there's only like a couple of them in Vermont.
Jay Southworth is a guy from Central Vermont that did the courthouse. So,
There's one called Slate Affair.
That's
what we do, Slate Affair at the library.
yeah, wow. Moving on down here, here's the firehouse. We changed the title from floor repair to repair and maintenance. It's the same thing. That was used for the roof. We still have to do the floor. That's where that's showing. I'm gonna let Seth, please don't do what Tom did and say I did a good job. We've got a couple of police department items here as well.
I think you're doing a fine job.
All right.
I'm teasing, I'm teasing. Show me the clicker.
Right here. First one is your bulletproof vest.
Right, so the bulletproof vest that we wear on duty for regular stuff has a 5-year shelf life. You can't use it beyond the 5 years, regardless of what type of shape it in. The Kevlar and it breaks down after a while. What we had done in the past is, like you'll see this year, I've got $17,000 budgeted because I have $17,000 worth of vests that have to be replaced in this calendar year, or this fiscal year. I'm getting confused with the capital investment plan. So that's what the 17,000 is. Tech equipment fleet replacement is the start of a fund so that we don't have to rely on grant funds like we were to replace these. Although I am hopeful that that grant does come through. Dispatch equipment kind of speaks for itself, but that's basically moving in a direction of something on the roof craps out or something at JP goes wrong, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars for a piece of equipment up there.
Seth, if I may,
Please.
that $5,000, if it's approved, would complement what is restricted here.
Correct.
So you've
With
got a-
32,455.
Yeah.
With an anticipation of building a $100,000 bank account there. And that was what was recommended by Radio North, to have at least that much on hand to, if something were to go wrong. I mean, a microwave dish in and of itself can cost you $60,000. That's before installation or tear down. So, you know, and especially as we continue to pick up, hopefully more customers, they're not gonna say to us, oh, it's okay, you can be down for a month. You know, they're gonna want repaired immediately. I think those were my only three.
On the bulletproof vest,
Yes, sir.
is this still the grant program? Because Leahy has his big program, and every year I read about how different ones get for vest.
Yes, sir. So my hope is that, well, I have grant. So my hope is that that entire 17,000 will be necessary, but you know, throwing a grant number out there is like throwing a dart at a board.
Right.
But we have been successful in the past in getting grant funds for that, the bulletproof partnership. And so I'm hopeful that that will offset that.
But you have to get them anyway, so that's why it's there.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, back over to recreation.
Well, it's right into the bus like that.
Recreation is your maintenance vehicle, is that is that a lawnmower?
Nope, that's the utility vehicle at Gardner Park, so in lieu of, we did buy a vehicle, a truck for Gardner Park, but then the one crapped out, so we swapped that over to Prouty Beach. Decided that we could probably go with a utility vehicle to hold us over. Most of the use would be for field maintenance and lining, so tootling around the park. We could share the truck at Prouty Beach. We do miss the dump body that we had on the vehicle before, that was a hand-me-down from Public Works. For seaweed and things like that we're dumping out of there, so we will be looking at that in the future, but Tom thinks that he may have a hand-me-down that might work for us, so we're gonna get by with that for this year. The next item is aquatic weed control. That's an annual fund that we use to match the grants given to the state for the harvesting project and the greeter program down at the dock. Replacement docks is a 2-year, it's a $70,000 bill to replace the dinghy docks down at the marina. We're gonna split that in half with hopes of coming back next year for the remaining $40,000 to get that entire system replaced. And then $5,000 for improvements for all of our facilities, $5,000 for waterfront, $5,000 for Gardner Park, and $5,000 for Prouty Beach. These are for annual upgrades, things like swapping out picnic tables and fire rings and things like that. And then the last item, Prouty Beach improvements. Again, this was a $40,000 ticket. This is to the toilets and fixtures in the restrooms, and then we're looking at a bigger remodel for the campground bathrooms that the campground folks use, with the showers and all of that stuff. So we're gonna split that hopefully over 2 years, $20,000 this year, $20,000 next year, accomplished.
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you. So that encompasses what our budget looks like right now. I want to talk about what we're proposing to pay for that, because you're probably looking at that 5,800 never going, that's crazy. So I'm going to switch you over, I'm going to bring you to the recap page. The recap page is a compilation of all the entries on all the expenses broken out by department. So just to draw your eye here, you'll see that everything is contained here, and then there's some technical stuff down here. Would draw your eye to what we raised in city property tax over the past, well, we started in 2016. This goes a lot further back, but it seems like these most recent years are the most relevant. We're looking at proposing a city tax rate to generate 4.3 million. I want to go down to the bottom. These numbers here, the police department income, for example, and the police department expenses are carried over directly from the police department pages. So when you're looking at this online and you're studying it, you're gonna take a look at that revenue. You're gonna take a look at their proposed expenses, and you're gonna see that they're recapped right here. And you can see that there's a formula up there. Same for all the other departments, so I wanna get down to this area. What we're proposing to do with this budget, because we have some necessities to take care of that are one-time expenses. We also have a lot of opportunity with a VHB study, and we also have a lot of money that has been committed to unassigned. We also have this amount of money that we want to return back to the taxpayers. It's our recommendation that we utilize a total of $375,000 to offset that total amount.
That's to pay for the one-time.
This is what would go into offset. Well, offset your expenses, we would use it to focus on this area in the capital expenses.
Right.
So that's your focus, and the impact of that 375,000 comes from this 200,000 here, and taking 175 from there still leaves us $458 or $53,000 left in that account for an unanticipated emergency. I'm pleased about that because that brings us closer to the range that was our target. So I just want to go back into the recap page. We have to base this on what we know of our grand list, so we're being conservative by using 319 million. Using that 375,000 offsets your 5.8 million, and we just captured this because it gets a little confusing, which is why Becky is here. Total expense, total amount to be raised by taxes, total amount offset, gives you an increase in your overall budget of $69,536.65. Right now, this is your tax rate. We anticipated, when we approved this budget last year, we anticipated a tax rate of 123. Again, that was based on a grand list of 315 million. The grand list has gone up. It's likely that the grand list certainly won't go below 319. This formula would incur an increase of less, Penny? Jim, what's the difference between those two?
It's .0221.
Yeah, and that's your formula. So it's a 1.76 difference between last year and this year.
So we're basically looking at just an increase of basically 69,535.
Yeah. That's
Between
that's
the
your dollar
offsets
amount.
and
Yeah.
everything that we want to do as one-time, some of it one-time stuff.
Yeah, this takes into consideration using that 375,000.
But it allows us to do projects that we normally wouldn't be able to do. It allows, and some of those projects we're gonna have to do eventually anyway.
You're gonna have to find a way to fund them somehow. When I do the 5-year capital investment plan, you'll have a handle on what your long-term debt looks like right now, a snapshot, and you'll have an idea of when I'm sorry?
I'll die, see if you get the same number right. I took 1.2410 minus the current of 1.2189.
Oh, these two are the difference.
And that gives you what the increase would be, .0221. But that's counting on the current grand list. In the past, we've tried to estimate the grand list, but this year, That's not in the budget. It's basically using the current grant list instead of estimating any potential increase.
Okay, put it right up there.
Of 0.0221, not 22 cents more.
Sorry. I,
You scare everybody.
Becky has a look on her face like, what?
there you go. Sorry about that.
So,
So that's what we've generated for you. It ties in a lot of different initiatives, including starting with the taking advantage of the RCDI grant to increase our grant capacity and starting to take on some of the more exciting projects directly related to the VHP study.
and it doesn't mean that we won't be applying for some grants to do some of
not at
this,
all.
you know, with that
RCDI.
RCDI.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's been a pleasure to work. Thus far, they've applied for, I believe, 5 grants so far. So it's been very advantageous.
Okay, council members, any thoughts, questions? Awake? It's a lot to go through.
Yeah.
It's a lot to go through, a lot of work goes behind this. We start this process in September. We put something together and we're very mindful of how the voters feel. We're very mindful of the impacts of the reappraisal. We heard a lot of things this past year that made us nervous. So being able to be very conservative on our budget and be able to give the voters something back is very appealing to us.
And to be able to do projects.
It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
Okay, anything else? Do you have a question?
No, I'm just, seeing numbers.
You're seeing,
Yeah.
good point,
Big numbers.
seeing double. All right, very good, thank you on that aspect.
Thank you to the department heads. If I
Yes.
may. They really knocked it out of the park. Did a beautiful job.
Okay. Then we'll move on. New business, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Charbonneau. I have no new business. Any new business?
Got a couple things for Tom. Any news on the light at the access road?
Coming Wednesday.
Okay. And what about street light down on Plain Street that we discussed quite a while ago?
And I forgot that.
And I just reminded you. Thank you. That's all.
Is there any new business?
Now, just ask Mr. Bernier one question. The new federal guidelines on arsenic, they've lowered them again. Is that going to affect our plant?
Any new business?
No, thank you.
Okay. Old business, Mr. Johnson.
No. You have to remind everybody, all the department heads, need the reports by the 15th. I think everybody got the email, but better think of something to talk about.
Okay. Any old business? No? Anything?
No.
I don't have any old business? Old business? Old business?
No, thank you.
Okay. The next regularly scheduled council meeting will be Monday, January 21st, 2019 at 6:30 PM. And now we need an executive session, 1 VSA 313-3A3.
Same thing. I'll get my.
What does that mean, Mr. Mayor? What's the executive session for?
Basically, it's personnel, but he's gonna read the exact. Yes.
We're going into executive session to discuss the evaluation of
Okay, so Mr. Mayor, I will make a motion that we go into executive session to evaluate come in for this evening.
The motion's been made, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded, then any discussion? Then all those in favor say aye.
Uh,
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. We will be going in executive session.